This man fights with 4-ounce gloves with absolute killers in the UFC, and he's tentative at throwing punches at a 24-year-old YouTuber. Granted to him, he's 4-0 as a professional boxer, so hats off to him. I would take my hat, but the trim is dead, so... What's good, people? DanielBlocca here. I'm back with another video. Sorry if I look fucking exhausted. It is currently 5:30 in the morning. As you can imagine, I've just finished watching the Jake Paul versus Tyron Woodley fight. Jake Paul has won by split decision. And I'm just here to give my honest opinion on the fight and how I think it went, what we've learned, what we can take away from the fight, and what could happen going in the future. I'm not gonna touch on every single fight from the card because Tommy Fury won. I'll be honest. I mean, Tommy Fury won clearly every round, but his technique, considering that his brother is the best heavyweight boxer on the planet, right? It's not great. Like, he punches with his shoulders, like he doesn't put his hip or his feet into the punches. So I just thought, yeah, but him and Jake would be a good fight. Dubois, amazing performance again. But yeah, let's touch on the Jake Paul versus Tyron Woodley fight. The fight starts, and it's clear to see that Jake has got more experience in the boxing ring. He was sitting on the outside, you know, staying behind his jab, just jabbing Tyron Woodley away every time Tyron Woodley would try to come close. I will say, for the most part of the fight, Tyron Woodley wasn't throwing a jab. He wasn't behind his jab. He was only throwing single punches, and when someone is on the outside, you need to throw combinations, 1 or 2 jabs to get yourself in the range so you can throw a bigger shot. Jake Paul started well, you know, he was throwing combinations. You know, no serious punches were thrown in the first round, but Jake Paul clearly won that round. He was more technical, he was more accurate with his punching, so clearly you can give him that round. Round 2 was a repeat of round 1. Tyron was trying to find his feet, no lot of action, you know, he wasn't throwing a lot. Jake Paul was finding his feet more. You can see the bounce in his step, you know, he was throwing his jab and he was trying combinations. Not much was landing, or so Tyron Woodley was making it look like. Some punches were landing and Jake landed some nice combinations. Third round, you know, Tyron Woodley opens up a bit more. He wants to press the fight. He's chasing Jake Paul around the ring. There's not really an attempt at kind of ring by Tyron, but not a lot of action is happening in these rounds. I mean, Jake is throwing and so is Tyron, but not a lot is connecting. I mean, they're not standing in the middle of the ring and just trading, you know. So it was clear from the beginning that Jake is just going to sit on the outside and throw punches, very similar to how he did with Gibb, and not actually engage in a, you know, fight on the inside where he knew that Tyron Woodley could hurt him. Speaking of Jake being hurt, round 4 comes about and we finally get to see Jake Paul tested. Beautiful right hand over the top, kind of on the side of the head, almost you could say behind the head, that wobbles Jake. If the ropes weren't there, he's most certainly going down. Amazing round from Tyron Woodley. Even in this round, however, I must say, he wasn't doing enough. He wasn't active enough. He wasn't chasing Jake. He was too busy doing this and doing it all for the crowd, where he should just press him, because Jake was clearly hurt. His knees wobbled. He's clearly hurt. You know, I mean, he had time on his side. He had a minute and a half left of the round. If he would just pursue them and just start unloading on him, he would 100% would have done some damage, and we could have even seen Jake on the floor. So that round clearly goes to Woodley. 3-1 going into the 5th round. Woodley comes out, starts putting pressure on Jake, and for the most part of the round, you'd actually think that he's winning, because Jake is clearly still buzzed from the previous round. But towards the end of the round, Jake actually starts outworking Tyron, and you can almost tell that Jake actually steals the round. Like, he stole the round right at the end. So, I mean, this round is a toss-up. Round 5 is a toss-up. You could almost say that it could go either way. 6th round comes, Jake is still absolutely exhausted. This is the one thing that we've learned from this fight. We wanted to see how Jake would deal with adversity, and we wanted to see how he would deal with the fact that he fights past 2 rounds. And we got to see that, and I'm not sure if it's because he was hurt from the punch from the 4th round, or he was generally tired, but he was breathing through his mouth, he was flat-footed. Yeah, boxing kind of went out the window. I mean, his jabs to the body were all from the shoulder. There was nothing down from the hip. He wasn't putting no torque in his punches. However, he was still doing enough to outwork Tyron Woodley. He looked busier, and in boxing, you have to look busy. And he somehow manages to steal the 6th round as well. So 5-1, 59-55, going into the 7th round. Clearly here, Jake's corner beat way louder than Tyron's corner. I couldn't even hear them, and they were giving Jake instructions way throughout the fight. Some of the stuff that they were saying made absolutely no sense, like swag it out. I'm not sure if that just means reset, get back to your normal stance. I'm not sure what the fuck that meant, but they kept shouting it, but they were vocal. The encouragement was there. Whereas Tyron Woodley's corner, I'm 100% sure that they're great at the job that they're doing, but they just weren't as vocal. Yeah, you could clearly tell that Tyron Woodley needed something special, like a knockout, knockdown, couple knockdowns. Just he needs to go for broke at this point in time, because he's fighting away on an away turf. He's fighting in Jake's hometown, fighting in Ohio. 2 of the judges are inexperienced. I mean, if you fight on enemy territory, you don't leave it to the judges. Everyone knows that. But yeah, Woodley comes out strong, pushing the pace. He's clearly the aggressor in the 7th round. I mean, Jake is clearly fatigued. Jake is still, however, finding enough energy to throw a flurry of punches or just make himself look busy a little bit, So I actually gave this round to Tyron Woodley. So going into the 8th round, it's 5-2, maybe 4-3. The 5th round is debatable. So I can see why people would say it could be a draw, because the 8th round, I gave it to Tyron Woodley. I felt like he was clearly pushing the pace. Jake was just on his bike the whole round. He didn't want no smoke. He was on the outside, as it was the whole fight. And the main issue is Tyron Woodley allowed him to do that. Tyron Woodley needed to just double jab to enter the perimeter so he can throw big punches, because every time he was throwing and landing, Jake was hurt. And at points in the fight I was watching, I was like, he just needs to jump on him. He just needs to hurt him. He just needs to throw. He wasn't working enough. There was points in the fight where Jake was so flat-footed, and I was thinking, if he just lands on him now and just goes for broke, like, this man fights with 4-ounce gloves with absolute killers in the UFC, and he's tentative at throwing punches at a 24-year-old YouTuber. Granted, to him, he's 4-0 as a professional boxer, so hats off to him. I would take my hat, but the trim is dead. So yeah, round 8, as I said, round 8, I gave it to Tyron Woodley. I just felt like he outworked him. However, he didn't make Jake Paul pay at all. When he had Jake Paul hurt, he just didn't capitalize on that at all. I'm reading the stats here. Jake Paul outlanded Tyron Woodley by 71 punches to 52. So, he was clearly more active. The power punches in the fight, I feel like, were thrown by Tyron Woodley. And the biggest moment of the fight clearly was when Tyron Woodley rocked Jake. It's just unfortunate that Tyron Woodley was more concerned about you know, hyping up the crowd when he's got Jake clearly hurt with almost 2 minutes to go early in the round. Clearly you still got, you know, still got energy, because if you're doing all of this, you've got energy. You could just start throwing, you know, every time. That fourth round, you know, that could have been it. But Tyron Woodley was obviously, he thought he could get him down the line, and unfortunately Jake Paul was just smart, stole rounds as the fight went on, and, you know, win the decision. So Jake Paul wins the decision, split decision. Tyron Woodley wasn't happy about the fact that he only got given 2 rounds by one of the judges. As it was mentioned, the judges were very inexperienced, but I didn't actually think they judged the fight that bad. I mean, I could see how people would say that Tyron only won 2 rounds because he was only really fully attacking in the 4th and maybe the 8th round. I have it 5-3 Jake Paul. I could see how someone could make a case out of that 5th round and say it's a draw. 100%, I could see it. But speaking of draws, you know, as a draw, you would normally get a rematch. However, in the press conference after the fight, Tyron Woodley was clearly unhappy, and he said, let's run it back. Jake Paul didn't look too comfortable with that, but good rebuttal from him. He said, if you get the tattoo saying I love Jake Paul, we'll run it back. And Tyron Woodley said bet. So I guess Tyron Woodley will begin some ink later on, and we could potentially have Jake Paul versus Tyron Woodley too, in which case I would like to think that Tyron Woodley would learn from his mistakes and actually push the pace of the fight. I know it's his first professional fight as a boxer. However, it's not like he hasn't fought 25-minute fights. He fought, 25-minute many a times. He was a champion in the UFC. You know, he had 5 rounds as a champion in the UFC. That's 25 minutes. He fought 8 rounds here, 24 minutes. So he's actually, he had more time. He spent more time fighting in the UFC. So fatigue shouldn't be a thing. I know he's 39, Jake Paul's 24, but Jake Paul was tired. But he still managed to do enough. So, yeah, props to him for that. But Jake Paul looked beatable and is beatable, 100%. He didn't look, once you put him in there with an actual fighter that could hurt him, he becomes human. But absolutely props to Jake. He has added Tyron Woodley to his record, which is incredible, absolutely amazing. Do I think he could, from the list that he put up, do I think that he could beat any of the serious pro fighters on that list? Absolutely not. Do I think he could beat KSI? If KSI trains and gets a couple fights under his belt, anything is possible. I'd obviously cheer for KSI, and I'll personally say yes, he could win. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought about the fight. Let me know how you scored it. Let me know if you're looking forward to the rematch. Who would you like Jake to fight next? But yeah, if you're new around here, make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. We're 154 subs, road to 200. I appreciate every single one of you. Thank you so much for the love on my previous videos. And yeah, I'll catch you on my next video. See ya.